Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Ivan Jewell, Chair of the Corporate Parenting Panel. Can I say welcome to this remote meeting of the Corporate Parenting Panel taking place on the 18th of December 2020, which has been recorded live to the Council's website and will be available to be viewed for a minimum of 6 months. Please be aware that any footage from the meeting can be used in subsequent media broadcasts. I would like to extend a warm welcome to members, officers and any members of the public or media who are watching this live feed of the meeting. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us to follow. Please mute your microphone. Blur your background if possible, or use the corporate background. To speak, the chat function is on the right-hand side. Type RTS, request to speak, and remember that everyone in the meeting can see the message in the chat function. When invited to speak by myself as chair, remember to unmute your microphone. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position, unless you have already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If you are having issues with connectivity, try switching off the video and use the video function. If connectivity issues continue, you may need to leave the meeting and rejoin in order to get a better signal. If I lose my connection, the Vice Chair, Councillor Heather Smith, will assume control of the meeting until my connection is restored. Thanks very much for that. And can we move straight into the business of the meeting, please? And the first item on the agenda, have we received any apologies? And it's over to Jill.
Chair, we've received apologies from Councillors Patricia Jopling and Anne Reid, and also co-opted members Chris Baines and Wendy Taylor. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. And the next item on the agenda is substitute members. Do we have any substitute members?
We have no substitute members, Chair.
Thanks very much. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of October 2020. I'm assuming that we've all read the minutes of that meeting, and can I ask, can we agree the minutes as a correct record?
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Thanks very much for that. The next item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Are there any declaration of interests, please? I'm assuming that there are no declarations of interest. If you find as we progress through the business that you have a declaration to make, then please do so at that time. Thanks very much. The next item is item 5, and it is the number of looked after children. And I think we're handing over to Helen for this, please.
Good morning. I'm Helen Ferguson. I'm Head of Children's Social Care. And just in relation to an update on numbers of looked after children in County Durham, as of this morning, it's 960 looked after children, which is a slight increase from when we reported that last month. I'm pleased to say that we are seeing some of the delays that have been kind of COVID related starting to progress through courts and such like. So we're confident that children's plans are progressing well now, but we will continue to kind of see some of that impact, I think, for the next few months whilst we just work through some of the COVID specific delays for children.
Thanks very much for that, Helen. Has anyone any questions, please? I'm not getting any requests to speak, so I will assume that there are no questions. Thanks, Helen, for that. Can I ask us to note the update, please?
Agreed.
I'm seeing heads nodding here as well, so thanks very much for that. Can we move swiftly on to item 6, please? And that is investing in children, the Children and Care Council update. Can I ask the project officer to introduce themselves, please, and present their report, please?
Hi, my name is Rob Johnson and I'm from Investing in Children, and I work alongside children and young people who are care experienced and who represent Durham's Children in Care Council. And we have with me today Amber Boyd and Mitchell Green, who will also support me to present some of the ideas and some of the things we've been doing over the last month, including some key discussions and opinions and ideas young people have moving from what has been an extremely challenging year going into next year, and hopefully we can continue to progress and work alongside the children and young people. So I'd like to bring in Mitchell Green first, who's going to give you a little update on some work we've been doing with designated teachers.
Hi everyone, I'm Mitchell and I'm part of the Children in Care Council. So I'm going to talk about designated teacher training and plans moving forward into 2021. So we did training with over 50 designated teachers, delivering key messages to them, and the Children in Care Council is to work with schools policies for skills and education. For example, we advised we don't want to stay at reviews for the full period, and this is due to like personal talk, family time, and we don't want them to hear all of our personal information really. And the Children in Care Council have also discussed and said they don't want to be changing designated teachers due to like already having a connection and bond with them already, just like because it's all to do with like trust in your designated teacher, and like some young people might go to the designated teacher to talk about the personal issues. I'm now going to hand over Amber to talk about social work training.
Hello. The Children Care Council have worked with quite a lot of social work students over the past year or two. But this year, Durham University and Sunderland students have been taught by some of our Children in Care Council and done some training with them. I think it was 50 people, and taking that into the next couple of months in the new year, we want to kind of have a look at what they've taken from the Children in Care Council and what they've learned in terms of the importance of language and the voice of the child and young person.
Thanks for that, Amber. Yeah, I think the new development in regard to the practice of social workers in universities, we've had commitments to the universities to go back after 2 or 3 months to see what they've done in relation to what the young people have said with the practice within Durham County Council, particularly language. We've also moved quite rapidly to virtual training, and that has been delivered with young people in regards to future foster carers. That's been well received. We've even had recently feedback on opportunities to do more of that from some foster carers. So that's going to get looked at in the new year. We're going to look at that and review that. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, and I'm going to move on to some work we've been doing at a national level with the Children Commissioner for England, and that's very much looking at developing better policies in regards to the police and the connection between children and young people, first and foremost. Secondly, care experienced children and young people. That's a national policy which is getting developed in Sussex. We want to bring that learning back into the counties. There's some young people who are really keen on connecting with the police and becoming kind of an ambassador in regards to development and training, and that'll be getting picked up early January. We'll look at the stuff we've done with future foster care carers and try and adapt that to some of the learning what was taken on them 2 nights in late November, and I think that was well received, and it represents children and young people in County Durham at a national platform, and I think that's really good. And I just now want to kind of move on to some ideas we've kind of been discussing within the Children in Care Council, and I want to pass that back over to Amber, because young people really are talking about looking at developing what they did with the summer box programme and potentially want to negotiate and work with corporate parent panel in the future, and to think about some type of kind of annual fundraising initiative with the Children in Care Council. So I'll just bring in Amber. Are you there, Amber? Or do you want me to pick it up from here?
Could you pick it up, please?
Yeah, fine. No worry. So yeah, we've just been talking about the opportunity to look at that. Really want you to consider it. It's been a really extremely challenging year, and we do think children and young people particularly would want to work closely with you in the new year to consider some type of annual charity-based event which kind of then connects with children and young people, influence any funding where it might go, and particularly they want the funding to go back to possibly care experienced young people. I just want to then bring in Mitchell, who wants to kind of update on some thinking around animal time.
Hi everyone again. So obviously we've had a big discussion at Children and Care Council regarding animals, and we're looking at how can Durham County Council do more to promote animal time, such as like schools have adopted animals. So could Durham County Council adopt an animal maybe for young people and carers to spend time with safely, such as Hull Hill Farm approach to adoption, or even adopt one themselves and connect it with the Freedom Card scheme? And that's what we want corporate parent and panel consider.
Thanks for that, Mitchell. And I think we picked up on last month positivity and positive stories. So one of our members, Ian, was interviewed in November for a national ambassador framework and programme linked to a national charity. 80 young people were interviewed. They took 25 young people on, and Ian was one of them. So I'm working closely with Ian to look at how we connect what he's doing with corporate parent panel, the Children and Care Council and Durham County Council. It's early days, but it's Calmer Voice, and it's a national platform, and it's really is a really good positive story of what can happen as a result of children and young people connecting with the Children and Care Council, corporate parent panel, because he talked about this in his interview. So that's fantastic. I'm really proud of him. And I'll support him on his journey with that and connect him up with key people as he moves forward. So that's fantastic news. So that's it. We've kept it short and sweet. We just hope that's well received, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Rob. That was brilliant. I really appreciate it, and really appreciate you sort of keeping it as short as was possible, but giving us a flavour. I'd also like to take this opportunity of welcoming Mitchell and Amber. Thank you, Mitchell and Amber, for coming along and sharing with us. It's an important part of our work to listen to the voice of young people, and it is important that you come along and you have an input in these meetings. So thanks very much. And can I now open it to the panel? Are there any questions, please? Councillor Scott?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wonder what we have to do to get the request there about an animal adoption onto an agenda somewhere.
Helen, we talked about this, didn't we, at a Children and Care Council virtual meeting we had earlier in the month. There is work being done on that, I believe, isn't there?
There is, yes. So I think it's probably helpful for us to think about it in a number of different ways. So one of the issues that came up at a recent meeting we had with a wider group of young people was about making sure that social workers really thought about the importance of the relationships that children and young people might have with pets, particularly if they need to move, for example, if they're changing placement, and that people give proper attention to how important family pets are. So we've taken that forward already, and we've started to think about, well, we've already raised the issue with the social work frontline staff, and also with our IROs who chair all of those reviews and have some oversight of any of the decisions that are made about children who are moving. So that's, I think, one part of it. The proposals that have been made to the meeting today about adopting an animal and using something like Hillhead Farm, I think, are certainly things that we can give some consideration to. The Freedom Card is an obvious route for us to be able to make those links with. So we'll definitely take that back. We've got officers in the service who have lead responsibility for thinking about the Freedom Card. It's obviously been quite a challenge over the COVID period because many of the things that are available on the Freedom Card have temporarily been ceased, but we can certainly think about that for 2021. And then the other aspect of that is access to pets within our own children's homes, and that's already something that is the case in some children's homes, but again I think that's something that Claire will take forward. So my suggestion is perhaps we come back and report on the progress against all of those three kind of strands, if you like, perhaps in the spring.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Scott, and thank you for that response, Helen. Thanks very much. Are there any more requests to speak, please? I'm not seeing any in the chat box. Thanks very much. Then can we move on? And what we need to now do is note this update. Are we all in favour of noting the update? Thanks very much there. That's lovely. Can we move now swiftly on to item 7, and it is sufficiency and commissioning strategy for children looked after and care leavers. And can I invite the Commissioning Policy and Planning Manager to present the report on this, please?
Hello, my name's Lindsay Herring. I'm a Children's Commissioner for Durham County Council. I have a short presentation to take you through today, which focuses on the key priorities and actions of the sufficiency strategy that we'll be delivering over the next 2 to 3 years. I'll just pop this up now. Can everybody see that?
That's fine. Yes, thanks very much.
Super. Right, I'll get started. So the sufficiency strategy, it's a strategic document which sets out the plans that we will put in place to secure sufficient accommodation for children who are looked after and who are care leavers. We need to have this document in place because it's a legal requirement of all local authorities and it's in line with Section 22G of the Children's Act 1989. The document itself sets out a range of accommodation types which will meet the different needs of our children and young people, and it's about being able to provide local provision within Durham and the surrounding area. The strategy covers a 2 to 3 year period, and it really does focus on some of the ongoing challenges that we've experienced over the last year, and particularly over the last 18 months during COVID-19, the pandemic. And it really does focus on some of the gaps in services that we've noticed, and it looks at some of the actions that we'd like to take forward to address the gaps. A bit of information which Helen's already touched upon is around the number of looked after children and the increase that we've seen over the last few years. So back in 2014, we had 605 looked after children, and we've seen a significant increase of 51% between then and the 31st of March 2020. So I suppose that just highlights that, you know, the real need, why we really need to focus on our sufficiency options and broadening our offer for our looked after children in Durham. So I'll just take you through the key priorities which were flagged up in the sufficiency document. The first one is Objective 2, which really focuses in on our in-house fostering offer and reducing the reliance on our independent foster carers. So a couple of the actions coming out of that priority are the need to recruit new foster carer households over the next few years, 30 new carers next year, 30 new carers the year after. And particularly focusing as well on the retention of foster carers. I think that's really important about, you know, we need to really review our support offer for our existing foster carers and improve the way that the offer that we can provide and enhance that with a view to retaining them. We are really looking at some targeted recruitment for our foster carers, particularly looking at foster carers who can support older teenagers and sibling groups, which is an area that we continue to struggle with. We would also like to really focus on respite foster carers. There's a big need there, and that will help to support the stability of our existing placements and to prevent children from coming into care also. The final point on the presentation is around continuing to have a reduced reliance on our independent IFA provision, independent fostering agency provision, and to maximise our in-house provision with our in-house carers. Objective 2, which is around the number of adopters. So our overarching objective over the next couple of years is particularly in relation to the ongoing partnership work and the development of the new regional adoption agency with Together for Children, Cumbria County Council and the voluntary adoption agencies, which is called the Coast to Coast. And that is due to be rolled out from April of 2021. So that's a really key piece of work which we're continuing to take forward. The third objective is around the continuing need to develop and broaden our residential homes offer and to maximise our opportunities with external providers. I would really say that this is probably a key piece of work that I'd like to focus on, and a significant development within our sufficiency strategy, which will enable us to really broaden our existing in-house offer to meet the needs of our children and young people. The objectives and the actions that we're looking to take forward over the next couple of years are in relation to the development and opening up a new edge of care home. Now that home will support children on the edge of care to prevent them from becoming looked after, and it will also work with some of our children who are already looked after as well, to provide support to their carers and their residential workers to prevent placement breakdown. We're also developing a relief pool, and this work's already started to increase and develop a new pool of in-house staff across our residential home service, but also a support and solutions service, and to reduce the reliance on the use of agency staff, which will result in better outcomes for children and young people and improved value for money as well. We're starting to do a piece of work on a staying close pilot, and when I say staying close, this is for children and young people who are in residential provision, residential homes, who are almost 18, and it's about them being able to basically stay close to their children's home and continue to receive that outreach support from their residential workers who they have built a rapport with over the last few years. One of the significant developments that we're looking to take forward is the expansion of our smaller homes offer, our smaller children's homes. And when I say smaller, I mean 1 to 2 bedded homes. We have a significant growing need for smaller homes for our children in and around Durham. And we need this because we're finding that we're increasingly finding it difficult to match our children into larger homes, and they have more complex needs also. So we're looking to develop up to 4 new 1 to 2 bedded children's homes over the next couple of years. We're also looking to develop some new homes, therapeutic children's homes for younger children, similar to our West Rating provision, and for older children aged 12 to 17. And finally, in relation to residential, we are looking to review our upper bedding capacity. So at the moment we have a number of children's homes which cater for 5 children, and we're finding it's increasingly difficult to match children and young people into those homes. So we're looking to bring the bedding number down to around 3, which we feel is the best way that we can support the matching of children and young people into our in-house homes. We're also continuing to do an awful lot of work with our external providers in and around the Durham area. We've developed something called a Durham First approach. So we work with providers who are looking to develop new children's homes, and they agree to work in partnership with us to offer us the beds first and foremost for our Durham children and young people. It also gives us an opportunity to positively challenge service development, because it's really important that we have services that are being developed which truly meet our needs, and that we are going to access, and it won't encourage the use of out-of-county placements into Durham. We're also looking to continue to do a piece of work which is ongoing all the time in terms of moving some of our out-of-county children and young people back into Durham. And that's always on our agenda and something we're always looking at in some of our finance panels. So the fourth objective, the final one, you'll be pleased to know, is around developing the diverse range of accommodation for care leavers. So our children, young people who are aged 16, 17 plus, we are continuing to review the support living offer on an ongoing basis to identify what the gaps are and to identify what we need to do to fill those gaps. And we're also looking to, at the moment, develop a business case for one of our supported accommodation services to expand the offer and to create some diverse accommodation, dispersed accommodation provision. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'll just open it up for questions.
Thanks very much for that, Lindsay. That was very good, very comprehensive, and thank you very much for that. Is there anyone has any questions, please? I believe that Claire is asking a question here.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm Claire Morris. I'm the Strategic Manager for Children Looked After Resources here in County Durham. I'd like to thank my colleagues in commissioning for the fantastic work they do, pulling together such a detailed sufficiency strategy that absolutely meets the needs of our children and young people of Durham. It was a fantastic presentation, Lindsay, so thank you. One of the things that we are able to update on really quite quickly is we've already started work on reviewing the upper bed limit for some of our larger homes. So one of our children's homes who previously supported 5 young people to live there has now closed. We are looking at purchasing a brand new 3-bedded home for young people, and we'll be able to move on that very, very quickly into the new year. Recruitment has already started for the registered manager for that home. So we will nicely be able to see as we progress into 2021 that we've moved exceptionally quickly on the delivery of this strategy, which is something that is absolutely fantastic to see and will benefit our children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Claire. Can we now move on to Councillor Bainbridge, please?
Yes, Lindsay, I liked your presentation. It was very good. And I can understand the mixing of children, so I am pleased because the home I go to, they've always had a problem when they bring in an extra one. And so I do like the idea of the 3 beds in each home, because then it's like a normal family atmosphere as well. And can I just say, Helen, thanks for thinking about letting the children have some form of relationship or adoption of a pet. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. And can I now ask Councillor Heather Smith, please, to come in with her question?
Yes, thank you. It's not so much a question as to say thank you, Lindsay. I'm really pleased to see how we're liaising more closely with the private providers for children's care in the county, because this was something, as you know, that the Children's Scrutiny Committee had a detailed review of last year, and there were some there's a proliferation of children's homes in the county because of property prices being relatively lower here. But many of them don't take into account our local needs, and a minority of the children who live in them are actually County Durham children. So that closer liaison with these private companies, I think, is something that's really positive, and will benefit our local children so that more of them can stay closer to home. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councillor Smith. And can I now bring in Councillor McCune, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that presentation as well. I think we've got a very unique group of children and young people in County Durham, and I think it's really good that our commissioning team are creating offers based around their needs. We've got a planned smaller children's home in my ward, and as a local member, I've been very well briefed on this, and I feel like the people in the community who will be affected by it have been well consulted, and the parish council's been talked to. And I wanted to thank the service for being able to talk to us in that way. And one of the things that I also liked during that process was that we're not simply buying places, we're renting places, so that in the future, if that's no longer necessary for our children and young people, we can change the offer and we can find another premises. It's not tying us down forever, and so it's more flexible and is meeting our needs. And I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that's clearly gone in to the new plan.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor McCain. Lindsay, would you like to come in now, or would you like Councillor Constantine to come in prior to? I just wonder whether we're going to lose the point that you wanted to refer to.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, in terms of the work that's being done with the private sector, we've actually tightened it up quite a lot, and we do a lot of joint work with the police now as well. So when a new provider comes to the area and wants to develop a home, the police and the Commission and Young People Service do that joint work to understand whether, you know, does that service meet our need? What's the impact going to be on the community as well? So I just wanted to highlight that piece of work.
That's fine. Thanks very much for that. What I want to do now is I want to bring in Councillor Constantine. We also have Councillor Craythorne, and I think we'll finish off with Councillor Tucker, and we'll draw a line under, because we obviously need to manage our time pretty well. There's been quite a lot of comments and questions and interest shown here, but at some point we need to move on. So can I pull in Councillor Constantine, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone as well. It's just a comment, but the presentation was great and the wider report was brilliant as well. Everything just seemed to make so much sense for the needs of the children. I do the Reg 44 visits for 2 of our homes as well, and I've seen the impact that one person can have on a really settled home, and it really feels like everyone's working together to meet the needs for our children. So just thanks to everyone, basically, and then I'll let everyone else come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine. And Councillor Cawthorne now, please.
Hello. I just want to say thank you, Lindsay. The presentation was fabulous once again. It's not a question, it's mainly to say I'm pleased that you're running this Staying Close pilot scheme. When our looked after children leave homes and go on their own, they find it very difficult, and if they have no other support, they struggle to manage. So I think this scheme is excellent, where they can fall back to the homes they've been into and get support. I think it's fabulous. I hope it goes well and everything's okay for the children. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I pull in Councillor Tucker now, please?
Chair, I actually have got a question. Great report, Lindsay, but reading through the report itself, I noticed that the service is going to have what looks like a £5 million overspend. I'm just wondering how that's going to impact our ability to deliver in the next financial year, and if there's been inroads with the finance team into how we're going to offset that, or is there going to have to be some savings made in the department?
Hiya. I believe our finance colleagues are looking at that at the minute in terms of the gaps in funding and other capital, the capital ask, and I'm actually going to be doing a report in January, which is a bit of an investment strategy, which sets out the capital ask for all of to develop these homes and the revenue ask. And that information will be shared with our finance colleagues, who will then look at the wider budget availability. So that piece of work's ongoing.
Thanks very much for that, Lindsay. Can I now pull in Helen Ferguson, please? I think that you would like to say something on this.
Yeah, I think Lindsay's covered it really. I guess it was just to highlight the fact that it ultimately will end up being an investor save strategy, so that we know that the costs of looking after our children in some of the private provision is not always what we want for our children, but it also brings with it some significant financial cost. So there's just something about the kind of financial profiling of how we develop these resources within and for County Durham that will ultimately mean that we can, you know, make sure that that's done within the kind of financial envelope that we have. So the work that Lindsay's describing that we'll do in January will set out the framework for how we'll take. There's obviously a number of projects that Lindsay's outlined to you in the presentation, which will take us 2 to 3 years to kind of complete. So there's something about prioritising that and making sure that we kind of do that in a sequence that makes sense, both from a financial point of view and in terms of the needs of the children. And again, we can update you on that, you know, a subsequent meeting, so that you can see the kind of sequencing and the ordering of how we're going to take those projects forward.
Thanks very much for that, Helen. That was fine. Can I just finally say thank you to everyone who has had comments or questions. Can I say thank you very much to you, Lindsay, for the positive presentation, and it is always good to get positive feedback, isn't it? So thanks very much, and keep up the good work. Thank you. Can I ask members that we note the report and presentation, please?
Agreed.
Thanks very much.
Agreed.
Noted.
Thank you. And can we move swiftly on to item 8 now, please, which is Aycliffe Secure Centre update, and it's over to Selwyn, I believe. Thanks very much.
Hi, good morning all, and Merry Christmas, in case I forget, from everybody at Aycliffe to all of you. I have a quick presentation provided my IT skills work and technology work, so please bear with me. Oops, sorry, that's the second presentation. Let me come over there. Share again, sorry, just give me a sec. And
Selwyn, members already have the presentation in their pack if you just want to talk to it.
Well, just give me a second stab at it. Okay. I've got it. It's all part of my growing and development technology. So can you all see that?
Yeah, no pressure, Selwyn.
No, well, I feel it, but never mind. Anyway, good morning, and just thanks for the opportunity to talk to you about the coping with the threat of COVID-19. And I just want to share with you some of the story that Aycliffe has been going through, probably alongside the rest of the country and the world, I guess. So since March 2020, we instigated numerous changes to normal procedures and processes to just ensure that the centre continued to care holistically for our young people, whilst maintaining a safe and hygienic environment. So Aycliffe went before lockdown very early into high infection control, and that was emphasising washing of hands, 2 metres, wearing of PPE where you can't maintain 2 metres, lots of posters, lots of signage, lots of floor markings throughout the centre. And then, if you can remember, obviously, then we moved into lockdown. That caused Aycliffe some issues, I have to say. There was some panic, I think, among some of the staff, and we had high levels of people feeling they couldn't come to work. And we worked through that, you know, hopefully very supportively, and we got our staff back, and we were always able to maintain safe care of our young people, which was the key issue. We then moved from lockdown into test and trace, which brought us a huge number of challenges, because obviously when you're in lockdown, it's a kind of safer environment because chances of you catching it are restricted. But once you start getting into that freedom and people can mix and mingle again, then the options, you know, you could lose 1 member of staff infected, could lose up to 10 members of staff on average. So we dealt again with that issue and worked very hard with our staff to maintain really good staffing levels throughout. We have additional cleaning in the centre, so we literally have a cleaner on top of the normal cleaning who starts at the front of the building and works all the way through down the main thoroughfares and back again. If we get any members of staff who appear to be symptomatic or poorly, then we very quickly get them out of the building. We obviously check they're okay, and we check their whereabouts, and then we get a whole cleaning regime that goes on. It's like an army that attacks everything and cleans through. We also prepare our staff that are still on duty to be aware of any symptoms, which helps to keep them feeling safe. We have a senior management COVID meeting every morning. So we start the day with a ray of sunshine and we look at everything from staffing levels, COVID sickness, young people who might be in isolation, staffing levels, PPE. We review every week. So every Friday we've done that this morning. We go through government guidance. And we interpret the guidance, because sadly when the guidance comes out, it normally is announced on a Wednesday and implemented on a Thursday, and it becomes a real challenge for us to make sense of that. We also receive numerous guidance, so we get it from the council, we get it from central government, we get it from the Department of Education, we get it from Majesty's Probation and Prison Service, all helpful but all slightly different in what they're trying to say. And every day we review our centre recovery plan and we review our different ways of communicating with staff. So clearly we are limited in the opportunities of talking face to face. So we have obviously email, we use Teams a lot, and we have a notice board actually plain and simple outside with a different message on every few days. We amalgamated 5 houses, so for people who are familiar with Aycliffe, we obviously have 5 houses. We merged into 4, and that was just to put additional staff. Instead of spreading them across 5, we placed them in 4. And in the early days, we used that 5th house as a COVID ward if we needed to place infected children away from uninfected children. As it was, we've never required that house. And the plan is to open that house back up again in the middle to the end of January, and the team's being prepared now. During lockdown, it's been really challenging for our young people because they're already locked in. So family and professional visits were not permitted during the actual lockdowns 1 and 2, unless, because there's always a grey area, and it always has to be, unless there's a specific issue. So if we had a young person preparing for a high profile case, then the legal team was obviously allowed to come and see them. If there was an issue where a young person was particularly suffering by not seeing their parents, then obviously we would facilitate that. But in general, we stopped that. Once lockdown was finished, we very quickly went back to visits with PPE being worn and with checks on the family before they came the day before and when they arrived. But we also extended the use of Teams and virtual. So a lot of our young people have actually seen more of their family virtually than they would have done normally. So the kids have fed back to us that it's been really good. We also extended TV time in the rooms, and we have a mental health, like a well-being box with lots of puzzles and games and things for the youngsters to do. We maintain school. We've never lost school. All the way through, despite what's happened in the country, our schools continued and a full curriculum has been offered, with the exception of drama, which is interesting because it's been a big drama most of the time. So we've kept our swimming pool open, we've kept the football pitches open, and the running track and the hairdressers and everything else has been going, which has been testimony to our staff. Under test and trace, we looked at reducing the footfall of staff in the centre. So we've allowed staff to stay at home and be on call, or we've allowed staff to come into the building and not be present on the houses, but get on with e-learning or report writing or whatever it is they need to do away from young people. So again, just trying to reduce that spread. In terms of mental health and substance misuse and the physical health team, then actually all appointments right throughout have been maintained for our young people. On top of that, the centre has continued pretty much to work as normal. So we've achieved quite a bit. The work I'm going to talk about later on in the transition home, the work around mental health with young people and staff, all of that has continued. And our engagement with the national meeting every week, Aycliffe really has been offering a lot of solutions for other secure children's homes. So all that's been well received. So the staff really have raised or risen to the challenge. The challenges have always been for us is about maintaining staff confidence and maintaining them in the centre, and that's hard work, but we've managed to do that. The test and trace, as I said, young people's mental health and wellbeing is a big issue, because when a young person is admitted into Aycliffe as all secure facilities, they go into 14 days isolation, and it's been a big national discussion. But I want you to know that when Ofsted visited, their quotes were that all young people are well looked after in isolation. So we have the doors open, we sit in the doorway, we entertain or work with our young people either through games or schoolwork or whatever when they're in isolation, but we're obviously wearing full PPE. Now, we obviously can only do that when young people are cooperating, and in the vast majority of cases, all of our kids have worked with us, so that's been a challenge, and there's lots of mental health issue stuff in the rooms, so they're visited every day by a mental health practitioner just to assess how they are, and also the physical health nurse along with the duty manager. So our young people have been really well looked after in that 14-day isolation period, which is now down to 10 days. And again, we do get them out during the day. We get them out for an hour's exercise, for fresh air, try to engage them in everything that we can do. So that's a difficult situation, but we've worked really hard on it. The outcomes to date is that, and there's always an element of luck, but I'm also going to say it's through really damned hard work on the part of the people in this building, that no young person has tested positive for COVID. And we're one of the few secure provisions that's actually managed to keep that, but I'm touching wood as I say it. We've actually continued to recruit staff throughout. We've also continued to offer restraint training throughout, and we've used furloughed staff from across the council between March and July who came in to strengthen our ranks around that time when we were struggling for staff. And there were some exceptional people in there from the leisure services and other parts of the department that did really well. The offer for mental health and wellbeing support has been increased during this period, and we've increased the offer for our staff, so all of our staff can get to see an on-site psychotherapist when they're feeling the trauma of what they're having to deal with. And following our recent assurance visit, we maintained our outstanding. It wasn't a visit where they would have changed our grading, in all honesty, but the feedback was absolutely exceptional. And again, a real testimony to the hard work of the managers and the staff in the centre, and to our young people who have been nothing short of wonderful. Restraints are down by 75% in the centre. Self-harming's down by 70-odd% in the centre. It has been a phenomenally quiet time at a very pressured time, and I just would like to obviously commend to you how well our staff have worked in that. Sorry, that wasn't much of a presentation, was it? Because I didn't click the flipping slides.
And that's okay.
Apologies for that.
Yeah. So can we invite questions now at this point, Selwyn?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, yeah.
Can I start by saying thanks very much for your presentation, and thank you for the updates that I've had with you and Martin throughout this period. It's good that you've kept us updated through virtual meetings and things like that. And so, I mean, I think that what your presentation has done has given information to members that that I was already privy to, but I think it's good that the members know that. Can I just ask one question before I invite others? You talked about the success of the virtual visits. Will that be something which will be able to be maintained after we get through this crisis?
Absolutely, Chair. We've been doing work nationally with the Department of Education around what has actually been good and what things we would like to continue, and the continuation of virtual visits has been something that's really helpful when you consider that we've got young people who come from London, Birmingham, Manchester, and the difficulties of families travelling at any time So it's been really good. In fact, when the Youth Justice Board did their review a few weeks ago, spoke to one of our young local lads, he actually said it was much better for him because his mum didn't have to, you know, put herself at risk, and he could speak to her more. So yeah, we do intend to keep that.
That's fine. Thanks very much. Can I now call on Councillor Quinn, please? I believe that you have an input into this.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation there, Selwyn. It was smashing there. I'm just wondering, is there any programme in place for the staff to have the vaccinations now that they're starting to roll them out? I mean, I work in a nursing home, and I know we were already starting to implement them now, and I wondered if there was plans for your staff as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. No, not at the moment. Again, we've raised it nationally. We meet every Thursday with the Department of Education, Public Health England, NHS England, and the Youth Custody Service. So we have quite a direct link into people in high places. No, they're on it and they're trying, and but at this point in time, nothing specific for us at all.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. And it doesn't look like there's anybody else who wants to ask any questions. Selwyn, before we move on, Jill has suggested that she would be able to share your next presentation if you were having difficulty, because you've got that friend there beside you and he's never said anything and he hasn't helped you at all. Would you like Jill to put your presentation up on screen?
Jill, you're a very kind lady. Thank you very much. That would be much better for me. I'm good with kids. I'm rubbish with computers. And this is Snowy. And Snowy was we normally do, as you know, a big Christmas do in the sports hall, which we all look forward to. We serve the young people dinner. We haven't been able to do that this year because the houses are in bubbles. So what we've done is we had individual buffet parties on each house. So where we were in individual homes doing the serving and talking to the kids. So Snowy has been accompanying me around the houses this last week. So yeah. Okay. So am I ready to? Can I move on to the next part, Chair, on transition?
Just before you start, can I say to Jill? Jill, will you be able to move the slides on?
I shall try, Chair. Just bear with me.
I'll give you a clue when I go to each page, Jill. Is that okay?
Right, okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we've got the front page there. Thanks very much.
Actually, while you stay on that picture, as you're looking at the picture to your right, where you see the mostly wooden area, and you'll see in the far corner there's a bit of grass, a bit of green. Well, the proposal is that we extend out to that area. So when I'm talking about the transition home, to get an idea of where the new build hopefully will be, it will be the continuation of that wooden area, what looks wooden anyway, and we'll go out that way. So it's designed in keeping with the attractiveness of the front of the centre. So I want to talk to you about a transition home and what it is and why we need one. It's a national drive and it's an external demand for new and innovative ways to look at the resettlement of young people. So what we're finding is very similar to the earlier presentation from Lindsay when you talk about staying close and young people moving on. Well, young people who come into a secure children's home have pretty much passed through every other form of provision, or they shouldn't really be with us, and it hasn't gone well for them. And they come to Aycliffe and they do remarkably well. They go through a whole journey when they come here. And the difficulty is that when young people are moving on, there isn't the moving on placements for them. And some of that is to do with their history. So people look at it and they go, well, they are behaving themselves because they're locked up, aren't they? As if that would happen. And so therefore people don't want them. And then you've got kids from all over the country where they want to go back to their home areas, but they can't go back because either their own provision won't take them back, as I say, for previous history, or the private providers also look at them and go, no, thank you, we can get an easier child. So what we want to be able to do is be able to move our young people out of secure into a community home that's attached to secure, where they will leave via the front door, just like any other child in any other home, and go to school, college or work. But they'll build on the relationships and the journey that they've already achieved in secure. And they might only be there for up to 6 months. They may be there longer, depending on what their needs are. But actually for the young person then to be able to demonstrate that they can live in the community safely, and it gives their local authority the opportunity to be able to relocate them properly. So that's why we want a transition home. And what we know is that throughout the country, secure children's homes are struggling with local authorities being able to find them a placement. And what that means is that sometimes kids stay locked up when they shouldn't be locked up, and that's not acceptable. Or sometimes young people leave us and they've done really, really well, and then they dump them back where all the problems were in the first place and wonder why they go back to where they came from, because they've got to survive in those areas. So it's not fair. So this is something that we're offering. And actually the DfE, we did a presentation to the DfE and they're really excited about what we're offering. So this is an alternative, so young people wouldn't have secure orders on them and they wouldn't have welfare orders on them. And as I said, it's to be able to demonstrate that they can move on. And the good thing, the exciting thing about this is we would be the only secure children's home in the country who's doing this. So it makes us a market leader, so it helps us with our business, but it helps young people, which is the most important. But it can be replicated, so people can come and have a look at what we're doing, and then they can go and do that in their own area, which again is also much better for our children. So in terms of what have we done so far, so the next slide, Jill. Can you hear me? Hello?
That should be on to the next slide.
All right, well, I've got, we should be on what have we done so far? And on my screen it's got why do we need a transition home? I'll just keep talking because obviously time's an essence. So we developed an options appraisal. We have managed to source a really good architect from over in the northwest who has a history of doing work with secure children's homes and coming up with some really, really exciting designs. And he's had quite a tight script. So we're looking at 4 young people with ensuite facilities attached to secure. So those designs have been done. We picked the design that we wanted. We obviously now have we've got commitment from the department to pursue that financially, so we've got the financial backing, but actually at the stage that we're at now is we've done a pitch to the DfE. They're really excited about what we're suggesting and what they've seen. So we're now going into open bidding in January, and hopefully we may well get full funding or partial funding from the DfE to make this happen. So we have a full project plan now. The start date's slightly put back because obviously we want, if we can get the money from the DfE, then that would be better for everybody. So it's probably about March time when we'll get the outcome. There's some conversations to be had in Durham about whether we wait that long or we go our own and ask them to fund it. But in general, everything is a green light. The designs are really exciting, and we've shown them to our young people just to see how they feel, and they just think it's fabulous. So I think that's where we are really.
Okay,
I'll take any questions. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks very much for that, Selwyn. I'm always impressed by your commitment and your enthusiasm, and it's good, I think, that when we have these innovative things happening in the county, and thank you and everyone else for moving along with these things and progressing things. Can I ask Councillor Bainbridge, please? You have something you want to say?
Hi, Selwyn. Thank you for your presentation. Both presentations was good. And I know your passion for your children in your home is outstanding. And the idea of a transition home for the children, I think it's a fabulous idea. And I wish you every success in that project.
Thank you very much.
And a Merry Christmas to you and all your children. So.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Bainbridge. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Selwyn, what a brilliant idea. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I will be thrilled for you if it comes to fruition.
Thank you.
Only simple question is, you mentioned school and work and so forth in the transition home. I'm assuming that the schooling will be out in the community, wouldn't still be insecure. Maybe a silly question, but that just wanted clearing up, please.
No, it's not a silly question at all. It'll be out in the community, but what will happen is that our school will go into the school. That's the proposal, and so that our kids will have a familiar face from school. So we'll actually be part of that transition into education, and so we'll settle them down and establish it. And we'll also have facilities in that house where we can still do some home education to help them catch up, or if they're experiencing issues. But the idea would be that before they've left secure, we will have located the school, and there won't be a delay of them moving in. So there'll be lots of support from education. But yes, they will go into school, work, whatever, play outside of the centre. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Selwyn.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more requests to speak, so can I say, yes, Selwyn, thanks very much for those two presentations. Thank you very much for the second one. When you first shared that with me, it's a couple of months ago now, I think, and I just found it was so amazing, and I really do hope that we can push forward on that and give our young people an even better deal than they have now. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
And what I will ask now, that we can note Selwyn's report, please, members.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed. Thanks very much for that. That's fine. Can we move on now, please? And the next item on the agenda is item 9, and it's an update on Regional Adoption Agency adoption coast to coast. And I'd like to call on to Paula now, please. You've been waiting a long time, Paula, but now's your chance. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everybody. My name's Paula Gibbons, and I'm the Head of Service for Adopt Coast to Coast. So I'm starting off this item just with a verbal update. My IT skills, or lack of them, will come into play in the next item, unfortunately. So just to confirm that the full business case for Adopt Coast to Coast has been through the 3 local authority cabinets and approved, which is great news. I know it's been a long journey for the authorities to get to this point, and we have a go live date of the 1st of April. We now have some really active work streams. I think that some of the challenges you realise is you need some of the IT solutions before you can work out the practice. So I think we're having a bit of more of a flurry of activity over the Christmas and into the new year. And I think obviously you'll have seen in the paperwork, it's a partnership model. So it's a hub and spoke. So the hub is is myself and the comms worker, marketing officer, and the spokes are the 3 local authorities. And this is a really great model for a regional adoption agency. We've been very lucky that we are towards the end of the implementation phase, and this model became available. So we haven't had to use the previous model of a hosted model that members will probably be aware of. So it's great news. That makes staff engagement much easier. Each of the 3 local authorities retain their adoption services, and as head of service, my responsibility is the improvement in practice and the recruitment of adopters for us across the region. As I say, IT is absolutely key, and we've got some great people across the 3 local authorities who are working with us to get that solution. And we will have an inquiries system in place, or we will be launching Adopt Coast to Coast website and Facebook, because these are all key aspects for our recruitment strategy. As I said, the staff engagement is much easier now. Staff often in these arrangements get, very worried about chuppy and how that affects them, and that can impact on the business as you go forward, but that's not the issue for our model. And we will, into January, we will start the wider engagement with prospective adopters who are already on their adoption journey with the 3 local authorities. Those who've adopted and have children, so are seeking post-adoption support, but key, those who are yet to start their journey, because they're our new adopters, and they're the ones we really need to engage with. So obviously, please, if at any point anybody, thinks that can help within their ward, or you want any more information, please absolutely don't hesitate to ask. And one of the amazing bits of practice we're going to have is an early linking and matching option. Now, we've been very lucky in the whole country. There's a company called Linkmaker who offer this service to every local authority and voluntary adoption agency, and they are able to provide us with this solution, which means we can be looking at our families. So our adopter's journey is 2 stages. So we have stage 1, where obviously we're doing all the statutory checks, and then we have stage 2, where we're doing the assessment work. Generally, we start to look at the matches for children with adopters when their adopters are in stage 2. However, the model allows us to do that much earlier in the process and start to look at potential links when they're still in stage 1, which for the children is much better because it shortens their journey to be adopted, which is great news. And the fact that the system already exists is just phenomenal, because if we'd had to develop this could have been months, maybe even years in the making. So I'm just really pleased that we've got this far, and I'm actually quite excited about 2021. Thank you. Has anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Paula. Thank you for that presentation. This really has been a long journey, and I was so surprised when I saw that progress was being made for so long. It seems to be the fact that, as in all cases, when you're bringing 3 local authorities together, it throws up all sorts of issues and problems, and hopefully we've overcome them, and we are able to move further forward quickly. Can I ask, is there anyone any questions for Paula, please? Well, you must have answered all of the questions, Paula. That's great. I believe that we have a second. Can we ask first, can we note this report? Thanks very much, members. And Paula, it's over to you again. We're getting our money's worth.
I think everybody was so excited to try and watch me do the IT thing. So I know Jill's waiting in the wings, but I will try my best to do it myself. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can see it anyway.
Oh, good. I think I need to do that.
That's correct. Lovely.
I think I've done something very odd on my screen, but never mind. So everybody can see that.
Yes, that's fine.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to start. So obviously, I should start again. This is the 6 monthly adoption service report for Durham County Council. I'm presenting it because I was obviously the adoption team manager up until I was appointed to head of service for the RAA. So it felt right that I was to do this, because this report takes us from 1st of April to the end of September. And I know you've had opportunity to see the annual report from last year. So I'm hoping that this really builds on the phenomenal, and I do never use that word lightly, the phenomenal work of the adoption team. Obviously supported in that by colleagues in the permanence team and in fostering, but everybody across the council, we've all gone through, this very interesting period in our lives when we never thought it would be like this. And I said to my staff group when we first went into lockdown, I think we've probably got enough work for 4 to 6 weeks, and then I'm a little bit worried about what we're going to do. Obviously, clearly that never became an issue. We got very lucky in that the government amended the adoption regulations, as they did with a number of other regulations for fostering, etc. which allowed us to continue our business. And so that has enabled us to achieve this amazing performance and allow children to be matched and then placed with their adoptive families. So in terms of staffing, we've obviously had a lot of people who've joined the adoption team over this period of time and have not had the opportunity to get to know each other face to face. However, they've utilised teams and chats with each other to become part of the adoption team in County Durham. In terms of performance, we've had 46 initial inquiries and 24 visits during this 6 months period. It is a reduction on the number of contacts, but absolutely the number of people who've proceeded to the next stage has increased our conversion rate, and that's what it's about. You often get a lot of people who contact the adoption services and at that point aren't sure if this is for them. So that's absolutely, that's what happens. So it's really good. We aren't, we're not all greatly technical in the adoption team, it's fair to say, and we went from our training being physical, face to face, to online through Teams, and the two staff who led on that have absolutely just done an amazing job, and have interviewed key people, including myself and our adoption panel chair, medical advisor, etc., who would normally attend the training to talk about the role. So they've actually interviewed them and show video clips of them, which is great. So that just shows you that we've managed to keep our business going. We've approved 25. In that period of time, we approved 25 prospective adopter family via virtual panels. It would be fair to say that we went from being a paper-based panel to an electronic to a virtual panel probably in about 3 weeks, and that's to the credit of every panel member, or internal and external panel members. They've been phenomenal in working with us, and we originally talked about having quite small panels to give people a chance to to get used to this, but the increase in business resulted in panels becoming very long, but everybody's born with us and allowed us to continue. In terms of adopters, we obviously have adopters at different stages. So at the end of this report, we had 5 in stage 1 and 8 in stage 2. So that just shows you that the number of people coming through the adoption process in Durham continues to be very healthy. The business allowed us to match 28 children with 26 prospective adopters. 14 of these prospective adopters were approved by Durham County Council. Obviously, as in with fostering, we use voluntary adoption agency adopters where we can't find matches for our own children. But that, for people who know the practice from previous years from Durham, that's a really good figure, that our in-house adopter numbers are increasing. We have only had 19 children who had their adoption orders granted in that period. That's clearly related to the court process. Courts did have a pause and then have obviously picked up their business, but clearly adoption orders couldn't be at the beginning the priority over other children's cases that they had to consider. So as a result, for the adoption team and for the permanence team, we've got a lot of children who are still looked after, living with adopters, prospective adopters, but not yet have an adoption order, and there's 40 of those children. So that it does mean it's busier for both teams in terms of supporting those placements. However, should we have a flurry before the end of March and get some more adoption orders, then we are looking like we're going to have a bumper year this year. I'm not sure how much people are aware of the adoption business, but nationally, post-adoption support is the biggest area of growth in adoption services, and we've had 38 contacts into the adoption team from families expressing the need for additional post-adoption support, and 30 of those had an assessment of support needs, which means then we go to the Adoption Support Fund for funding for therapeutic intervention. That's a huge number, and that is, as I say, likely to grow. So that's something as a regional adoption agency we would want to look at, to make sure we're continuing to be able to offer the services we can. Obviously in Durham we're very lucky, we have the Full Circle, which are an in-house provider, which is really good. So that allows us to get some really early access for adopters who often, which is probably human nature, contact when they're in crisis. So we need to be very responsive to their needs. The other area of big business, which has thrown us slightly, I have to say, is that in this period of 6 months, we've had 32 inquiries regarding non-agency adoption. So non-agency adoption is people who wish to adopt a child that is not in the care, is not a looked after child. It's often step parent adoptions, but it can be foster carers who, not foster carers, sorry. Anyway, I'll just stick with step parent adoptions. So the challenge for us has been that in the 6 months, that number is only 3 less than the previous year. This is a statutory requirement for local authorities. It's not always reported on, and because often, you know, the numbers do fluctuate. So the high number of inquiries doesn't automatically link to 32 assessments. But I think it's important for people to see that figure. And we've been doing some really good work in the adoption team with our Liquid Logic colleagues, and where the systems are being developed so that we'll be able to track those inquiries more easily and report on the progress of them going forward. We do have one adoption worker who specialises in this, and she works part-time, so clearly she's not going to be able to complete all this work on her own. And it is quite a specialist piece of work within adoption, which clearly is already specialist. And just a quick update on my key priorities. We're obviously working through them. You know, I'm just so proud of the adoption service and the staff members, and they're highly experienced, you know, confident professionals, and it's really important that we continue to support them in engaging as a team, because it's not easy to have lots of changes, and it does impact on, you know, how you work and things. So I think that's really important. We have a really strong learning culture in the team, and it's very important, especially for the Regional Adoption Agency going forward, that we have that opportunity to learn from each other, because this partnership model is going to be great in terms of being able to look at practice across the 3 local authorities and with our Voluntary Adoption Agency colleagues as well. Early permanence planning, particularly in relation to adoption, is fostering for adoption. That is a model that we are continuing to embed. We haven't done as well as our other local authority partners in the RAA, but I think that the great thing is we can learn from them, and it's a lovely opportunity for children to be placed very early on, often, you know, from hospital, so they don't have changes in placement until their plans are secured. As I've already mentioned, we've been doing the work on LCS, and the final point is that I've been reviewing the adoption allowance procedure, and that's currently reports are being presented for CSCMT. So thank you. If anybody's got any questions.
Can I say thanks very much for that comprehensive report, Paula? It has been quite amazing to see how fast we've been able to adapt and to change in this particular situation. I would have never have thought 12 months ago that we could have changed from the model that we were working along to this model. But we have done that, and that a great deal of credit needs to go to yourself and to other members of your team. And I'd like you, on behalf of the corporate parent panel, to pass on our thanks for the hard work that has been done. I often think that you know, change can be difficult. I think that in most cases people are okay with change. It is the rate of change which is sometimes difficult. The rate of change here has been dramatic, and yet everyone has stood up to the mark. And I couldn't really have believed, sitting on the adoption panel, that we could continue the work in a virtual fashion. But it has worked very, very well. In fact, for me, it's worked too well. The last adoption panel I attended, there were 7 cases to look at, which meant seven piles of reading and hours in front of the computer. I'm pleased in many respects, because at least we're making progress. But on the other one, try not to make them that big in the future. Thanks very much, Paula. Can I pull in Councillor George Richardson, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and thank you, Paula, for a very concise presentation. It's a little bit off the wall, really, but can you tell me, are we in County Durham more thorough and take more time than some of the other areas? I'm thinking specifically outside County Durham, where I've met people who have adopted from particularly Newcastle. I recently met a lady from Durham who had adopted quads from Newcastle. They were about 9-year-old now, but she'd had them quite a long time, obviously with a husband, partner, whatever it was. But yeah, is it more difficult, and are we more thorough? Than why would Newcastle come forward on more than one occasion? Thank you.
I think obviously all local authority adoption services have a set of regulations we work to, and we all placing children with adopters is a very serious business. So the assessments are always very thorough and very considered. I think one of the opportunities we've had in Durham is to look at some of the processes and to see how we could reduce some of the to-in and fro-in, so that it's a more timely journey for our adopters. And I probably should have said it in the last presentation, transitioning for local authorities, transitioning to the REAs is always very challenging. And obviously that's something that, you know, Newcastle have gone through. But I would say that what I want to do is what we want to do in Durham and Cumbria and Together for Children in Sunderland is celebrate going last as an REA. We're really keen that will be our, you know, our sort of recruitment strategy, because we've had this opportunity to be more considered about our practices and how we can do things that are right for children, but that benefit, you know, that the adopters, the prospective adopters, can understand why we ask the questions we do and why we do things. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Councillor Richardson.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that. It's the answer I was hoping you would give.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay.
Could I just add to that, Paula, because what I've found is that what we have done as a council is we have sort of asked our adopters what their experience has been like, and we have learned from that experience. But on the other side, I think that sort of adopters go to different local authorities and different organisations for different reasons. Mm-hmm. It can be that they have friends that have gone down that line and things like that. So you know, I don't think we'd ever reach the situation where we would all of our adopters would be from Durham. And likewise for other local authorities either, but I'm quite confident that we go through I think we have streamlined the process, but without losing any of the quality. So thanks very much for that. Can I ask, Councillor Tucker, you don't have anything to say? Just making a comment there. Thanks very much. Can I say thanks very much for the report, in fact for the 2 reports, and can we note this report, please, members?
Agreed. Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Thanks very much for that. And so we will now move swiftly on to item 11. I'm looking at the time here and I can hardly believe this. But the next item on the agenda is any other business. I haven't been informed of any other business for the public part of the meeting. So what we'll do is we'll move on to item 12, and that is the exclusion of the public. Can I ask for a mover to exclude any member of the public and media to enable us to discuss items contained which have exempt information?
I move that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Sorry, the seconder, could you come in again?
Councillor Tucker, I second.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think Helen Ferguson wanted to come in there.
Sorry, I've just missed that, Helen.
No, that's fine. I don't know whether you just wanted to pick up the in the any other business part of the agenda, the poem from the young person.
Yes, how remiss of me. Could we do that?
Right.
Can we do that before we exclude the members that are not able to stay with us?
Okay, Chair.
Have you got the slide, Jill?
Yes,
I'll just introduce it if that's all right, Councillor Jewell. So we've been doing some work with our children and young people across County Durham to try and capture their experiences of COVID and living through lockdown. It's been a fabulous piece of work, and we've young people have been involved in all sorts of creative activities, so taking photographs, making videos, drawing pictures, writing poetry, and we've produced an ebook which captures all of this work. And it's just been completed in recent days, which is why it's not a kind of part of the formal agenda today. So we will send a link out to the ebook with the minutes of the meeting, and it really is a fabulous thing. I'm sure people will really appreciate having a look at it. What we've also been able to do is get some young people to create little audio clips of poems that they've written, and so they're actually speaking to their own poems. And we thought that we would finish the meeting with just one really short example from one of our looked after children who has written a poem about her experiences of being in care, and then she's actually reading it out as an audio clip, and with a bit of luck, and if the IT works for us, we've got you this poem just to listen to finish off today's meeting. So I'll hand back over to Jill.
Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Can see it, thank you, yeah.
Jill, we can't hear it. Did you choose computer sound when you shared it?
Yeah, I'll start again. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
I am not just a care kid. I am a care kid, that doesn't define me. I have struggled, but here I am. I'm not a statistic, a number. I'm someone who has lived a tough life. I will not be a stereotype. Care is nothing like Tracy Beaker. None of us care kids are bad. We are just misunderstood. We are unique. We'll stand tall and fight for our futures. Standing together, we can go so far.
Thanks very much for that. And Jill, if you want me to sign your CPD certificate, you've gained another skill there this morning. I'll do that for you. Just before I move on, I was supposed to introduce Claire for her moment of glory. Claire has been waiting there and thinks she'd missed it, but no. Claire, can you share something with us, please?
Thank you, Councillor. So we've committed to sharing a positive story about our children and young people who live in our children's homes. And the one I'm going to share with you, I just think is absolutely lovely. So in one of our particular homes, we've got two young people, and they're both under the age of 13. And as a result of lockdown, they're doing some future planning. So for the last week or two, they've been exceptionally busy clearing the garden, clearing soil, debris, everything that they want rid of, and clearing the shed, which, like everybody's shed, has about 30 years worth of really important stuff in it that you might want to keep for one day. We've had 2 skips to clear everything, and they've turned it into a woodshed where they're going to do their own carpentry. And they've decided that the first thing that they're going to do is make bird tables, because everybody has birds in their garden, so everybody will buy their bird tables and they'll become millionaires. And I just think it's absolutely lovely that they're planning for lockdown 3, using their DT skills and their carpentry skills and really engaging with the team who have got the pleasure of looking after them. So in the spring, when there's hundreds of bird tables, I'll be asking you if you would like one, so we can help our children to become the millionaires that they're going to be. So I just think that is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Claire. It's always nice to finish on a very positive note, but I really think that the meeting has been positive so far. So can I say thank you very much for that. For those that now need to leave, can I wish you the compliments of the season? Thank you for joining us, and thank you for any support that you have offered in the past, and hope you will continue to support in the future. Can I ask those who are not eligible to go to the next part of the meeting to log out, please? And Jill, if you can tell me when that has happened.